is Rajitha Umakanti, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about her. So she's been practicing nursing for more than 27 years. You wouldn't believe it by looking at her, but she has. She began her career at UNC Chapel Hill, North Carolina, working with medical surgical patients, heart and lung transplant patients, critical care, and also dialysis patients. And she worked in hospital nursing administration, outpatient dialysis. She was an ER case manager. But during her nursing journey, she said that she saw gaps in patient care, particularly when patients were given, all this information and sent home to read it and digest it on their own, and just kind of were bombarded with all of this information and facts coming at them, and no one really to spend time explaining it to them and understanding their needs. And I think we all can identify with that. So her patients inspired her to do something really special, and that is starting her own company, which is called Healthy You Lifestyle Center, which is a holistic weight loss coaching of mind, body, and spirit. So that is Rajitha. I think it would be great if we hear from each of the panelists their own personal journey from where they were to where they are today, and that could be with your business, with your health. I just think it would be a nice icebreaker for us to start there if we could. So please.
I just want to start off saying that since childhood, I have been struggling with obesity in the family. And we have lots of family members that are obese, and history of diabetes, heart disease, cancer. And through the years, and nursing kind of just fell into my lap. I just, it was not a planned career, but I decided to be a nurse, and that was the best decision I have ever made, helping people, while they are sick, educating them. And that's when I saw there was not much of education done, where the patients are coming right back to the hospital because they didn't understand, or the families did not understand. I wanted to start this Healthy You Lifestyle company where we focus on education and prevention. When we talk about prevention, most of them, prevention is not really taken very seriously. It's easy for us to pop a pill in versus addressing the prevention. Primarily, obesity is the main cause of all the diseases like diabetes, heart disease, certain types of cancer. If you address that obesity, all these things will be addressed within that. So that's the reason I focus more on that obesity, lifestyle coaching. It's not a diet, it's like one step at a time. We, work on it. I'm also a faith community nurse, so, we tap into that faith and get to that next level. So primarily my goal is to help women develop healthy habits for life, one step at a time, improve their health outcomes, and be content and energetic in their life.
I heard all of you have a different journey to where you are, but there are some similarities as well. And I thought we could start off by talking a little bit about each of your work, your respective work, and specifically, what do you find most often keeps people, especially women, from a healthy viewpoint, and how can they get there? So it might be helpful if before we dive into that question, we talk a little bit about what a healthier view means to you when you hear that. What does it mean to you, and why do you think it is important for everyone to kind of reflect on that?
Yeah, speaking about, perfect women, who is perfect? As Lisa said, none of us are. A healthier woman, in my view, is somebody who is physically active, able to take care of themselves, eating balanced nutrition, has, spiritual purpose in life. That, and how many of us do that? When we wake up in the morning, when we look at ourselves in the mirror, how many of us do we say to ourselves, oh, I love you. I love how you look. We don't reflect on ourselves, and we don't take time. As Lisa said, that's just, as women, we are always trying to fix everybody else, but not think about us. Our cup is getting empty. And how can you give so much? At some point, you're going to break, because the car will go so far. After that, it's going to break, right? Isn't that the reason why in the airplanes we have to put our oxygen mask on first? Before, we all know that, but still, we all are guilty of that. We just need to take that extra time to take care of ourselves. And that being said, recently, I have never been doing that. I have really reflected on myself and tried to pretty much, at least about 20 minutes of the day. I try to meditate, to try to reflect on myself, to get grounded, so that I can be refreshed and attend to the rest of the chores. If not, as a mother, you're going to be cranky at your children or somebody else because you're just stressed out. Like Noni said, it's just hard to keep going. At that, if we just take that conscious effort of taking care, it doesn't take very long, just about 20-30 minutes. That's it, each day. That will refresh us.
Digress from my questions for just a little bit, because I think you've touched on something really important, several things that are really important, but I wanted to hone in specifically on talking about social media, talking about social media and what we sometimes see on social media. So if you follow what some experts say, people who spend, specifically, I guess it doesn't matter the age, people who spend an exorbitant amount of time on social media tend to be more depressed than people who don't. And one of the reasons why is because people say that they look at their friends and their family and they appear to be doing well, and they start comparing themselves to these other people. So if we stepped back and we could talk to our children, our grandchildren, especially our daughters and granddaughters, daughters and granddaughters, what would you say to them about how they can develop, number one, a healthy self-image, and then number two, start adopting healthy ways of eating and living while they're young? I have a niece that's she'll actually be 20 on Friday, and trying to get her to step away from her phone and do other kinds of things that I think she should be doing at her age is tough. So as healthcare professionals, what has been your experience in talking specifically about young women?
I think in talking to young women, not just young women, all of us, most of us, what do we do? We look at outwards. We're not looking at inwards. That's what we need to try to talk to our children and young women. Look inside. It's all about somebody else looks so pretty, or I want to look that way. It's nothing, it's hardly anything. This is just an outer shell covering, but what's inside of you? That's what we need to deeply look at ourselves and say, okay, what is my purpose? What's inside of me? Where can I get there? And we cannot teach our children that unless we are practicing.
Right.
It's like, unless you put that seed into them, it's not like you do what I say, not what I do. Unless you're practicing that healthy way of eating, getting up out of the couch, walking, exercising, you don't have to be going to the gym, paying membership and all that stuff. Just simple chores in the house can be made fun along with your children. That way you're spending that time with the kids too. How many of us are not busy? We're all busy, right? We all only have 24 hours. That's just, the fact. We don't have no more or no less. But within that time, we can be more creative. Yes, it's easy to go out, grab fast food and eat. But if you spend that time with your children, bring them into the kitchen as you're cooking, let them watch you do it, and let them help you a little bit. So you're installing those, those good habits into them, even though at that moment they might not do it. Of course, when they get away from you, that seed was already planted. It's going to grow one day. That's the only way you can really help your children learn those good habits, by you practicing it, by letting them come. October is a cancer awareness month, breast cancer awareness month. We have 1 in 8 women that have breast cancer. That's a lot. And a lot of them think it's due to genetics, but that's not the fact though. It's less than 13% that get affected genetically. It's mostly our lifestyle, what we eat, what we put into our body, our exercise. That's the big thing. So, it's what you can do. You don't have to overnight change, just one small thing at a time, so that it will become a habit over time. That's what you can help your children with, by doing it, and then they will learn. At that time they might say no and all that, but you will see that down the road they have learned something from you.
And I don't mind sharing my own stories. So I was speaking with a friend, I think it was yesterday, I believe it was yesterday morning, and he asked me how I was doing. I hadn't talked to him in probably close to a month. And I just started talking about all the things I was doing and all the things I was juggling. And he listened, and then he said, you really need to find some time to step away from everything you're doing and just have some me time. He said, because if you don't, he said, you know what's gonna happen? He said, he said, you know what's gonna happen. He said, when it does happen, the world's not gonna stop, it's gonna keep going. So you really need to take some time. So, but I told him, and I know I'm guilty of this, and probably other people are guilty of this. The first thing I told him is, I can't. I've got this to do, this is a deadline, I've got to do this, I've got to do that, all these things that we have to do. So I wanted to kind of shift us into talking a little bit about, speaking of words, Nani, the S word, and that S word is stress. How can we manage it, even with our jobs, even with the demands? Because with some things with your job, whether you own a business or whether you work with other people, you can't negotiate about the deliverables you have to do. So, how can we manage the stress even with our jobs, the demands of family and other responsibilities? And I think before we talk about how we can manage it, I think it's interesting to hear what stress does to us, what it does to our bodies, what it does to our minds, and over time, how that might affect our health.
So how many of y'all say no to something when it's, your plate is full? That's excellent. Do you delegate?
Yes.
That's wonderful. That's the thing. We just need to practice about saying no or delegate. Something, it's okay to delegate, A lot of the times it's like, okay, you're like, oh, like Lisa said, I need to go home and cook dinner. Cook dinner, it can be delegated out to your, either if it's older kids or your spouse or somebody. It's okay. They might make a mess. You need to just close your eyes and walk away and clean up the mess later. That's the only way. And I think, stress is not a part of life. It's just what we created, right? Is it, it's not part of our life. It's just what we have created. So we need to just learn to undo it. Not just like, Lisa touched on how stress affects, blood sugars. It's not just that. It affects pretty much all of your body. Stress, your blood pressure goes up. And when your blood pressure goes up, your stroke, the risk goes up. So it's literally affects your entire body. And then, your mood, that's just another thing. That's when, you'll be all upset and you'll be snapping at wrong people, wrong things, and then everything blows out of proportion in the house, right? Mm-hmm. Because we take it out on our family. And then everybody starts having misunderstanding, and then next day you wake up and go to work again. in a bad mood because the night before you fought with everybody in the family because you were so stressed out. And then your stress continues. And with the workload and the, so you just need to balance yourself and say, okay, how can I manage? What is important, what is not important, something that I can let go. You don't have to be that superwoman doing everything. You can be awesome by looking at yourself and saying, okay, I am going to calm down, look inside of me. Then only that superhero will come out of you so that you can tackle everything else in a calm fashion. That way, you're being a good role model for your children too. Think outside the box. Yes, I am going to achieve all the things that I wanted to. I can do it. I am capable of doing it. Then those positive thoughts will, of course, you'll shine at some point. But it's whatever you think, that's what attracts you. So just remember, just think positive.
Absolutely.
How, each one of us have something that we like to do. I would think first thing what I do every morning, whether I'm running late or not, I have a separate area in my house where I sit down and meditate and pray. It's about 20 minutes. That just gives me that calmness for the day. I'm set, even though I'm running late. So whatever works for you, that's the thing, because self-care, it's all about what you put into your body. It's like, what are we eating? Because there's so many medicines that we are taking. It's so many studies that have been done. Like, if you have a disease, it can even be reversed. Diabetes, even cancer, and heart disease. There is plenty of studies out there. Now, it's not a Google News or Yahoo News. This is science-backed information, especially with plant-based diet, with lots of fruits and vegetables, the fiber in it. Yes, I'm sure we all have, family traditions of eating different things like chicken Popeye, fried chicken, and all that stuff, but even that you can make it healthy. And if they're saying plant-based, it all does not have to be plant-based. It's the portions. If you cut that processed food, processed food, processed meat is one of the carcinogen substance they found that gets you to have breast cancer. I'm just talking about this because of the breast cancer one. Because, we don't think about that. Will they advertise that way? No, you don't see it anywhere. And, the dairy, it's all about the portions that you eat. The more fruits and vegetables if you eat, it's lower in calories, and it makes you full. It keeps you regular. You have lots of fiber in it. And, like Lisa's daughter, after a cup of pasta, she said, Mom, I can't, it's not enough, but you know what? The rest of it she's going to fill with fruits and vegetables to fill her up. So that's the thing. What you feed your body, that's what grows. That's what is self-care. I think, as long as we do that, we practice, we are teaching our children the same thing. So just keep in mind what you're eating. That's simple as that. Instead of going with the medications, each year you can see how healthcare system is getting worse and worse. Your premiums are going up. They're not going down. And there's more and more co-pays and all these pre-approvals you have to get for certain types of medicines that, for especially with the diabetes, all the new drugs. You can avoid all that by just enjoying good food.
And I just think that I just wanted to add what Rajitha, food is, of course, medicine. And that is what I've been saying. So what she's saying is absolute. We have to be conscious of what we're taking in. Not that we can't enjoy some things, yes, but we've got to be conscious of the type of food that we're taking in. And the thing I think key is food is medicine, leaving that with it, that maybe people will think about it in a different, of course, way.
So I'm going to wrap us up. And I'd like to ask our panelists just to give us any parting thoughts.
I practice Hinduism, but I believe that, there's just one God out there, no matter what. I believe in that higher power. And I have gone through, I think my faith in God is what has helped me all along. And last year or so, I've been trying to think positive. That's the big thing. Whatever you think is what attracts you. It's the positive thinking. If you ground yourself and say, okay, it's going to be all right, I'm going to get through this, that's going to happen. You will see, it's just like some of the silly things, like, sometimes I'm going to work, I'm running late, oh, I want to be there by this time, and it did happen, seriously, it's not a joke. It did, it's like what you think about it, it does happen. That's the law of attraction. Whatever you think, you will attract yourself. But I do want to close this saying that please be mindful of what you're eating, and that's what you're going to be teaching your family. So every little step that you take is towards, your good health. That's what you're going to be taking self-care. That's a self-care you can do to yourself and help your family out too. And thank you for having us here and giving me this opportunity to speak to y'all. And if y'all have any questions, and if you want any type of private consultations, let me know. There's a clipboard out there you can sign in, and I can talk to y'all. And again, thank you very much. Thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you.
Thank you to our panelists.